Hello. Today I'm going to talk about the interesting topic of Stockholm Syndrome. And just in case you're not quite aware what that is, I guess this kind of term came out of a bank robbery in Stockholm, Sweden, where I guess you could say, the victims created a bond with their captors or abusers. And, basically it's a condition where, hostages will psychologically have a bond created with their captors, um, you know, during captivity or I guess the activity like that. And some may put it just blatantly as a trauma bond, really. It basically is, depending on what school of thought or school of understanding that you're coming from. And so I thought it'd be interesting to put this in the context of government, corporations, and the everyday person, sort of in this moment here, right? And obviously, I understand there's a variety of experiences, perspectives, irrespective of where you are in the world, geographically that you reside. This is a part of the beautiful experience of life here, right? And, part of being here in this moment is, just to witness that, really, and be part of all of that. So, yeah, what I'm just going to basically share may not resonate with everyone. These are all just notations. You take what you feel that you want to, that resonates, and you don't have to resonate with any of it. So, yeah. And I'm sure you're aware, many have chosen to live in a space or an emotion, right? Energy and emotion, it's emotion of fear. One may be, afraid for themselves or for another that someone might die or someone might mutate because they have chosen a particular decision or they've chosen not to go down a particular path. Excuse me while this helicopter or aeroplane flies over. Seems to be a lot of them. I already had to stop the last video because I was interrupted by one. So anyway, I'll just carry on. So, and as we see these supposed restrictions change, maybe be retracted, depending on where you are, obviously geographically on this earth, this is all going to happen at slightly different time frames. That's all I can say about time and when things will happen. We will see an increase, and it'll become more apparent of those that are actually, I guess you could say, suffering or residing in that space, in that condition, similar to Stockholm Syndrome. Especially if they want to continue to live in fear. And, you say, what do you mean they want to continue to live in fear? It's not necessarily that they want the fear. It's not really in human nature to want fear. However, that fear can create a supposed or a potential, I guess you could say, protection or barrier to something. So it's not necessarily the human wants to be in fear, but the human may be trying to protect themselves from something, and that's why they will sit in that fear. It's sort of like a comfort blanket, but somewhat not. And I guess for me to explain that and go further into that would have to be done in another vlog. So I'm just going to leave that section there, move on to what I'm going to say next. And the point of me sharing this Stockholm Syndrome video is, or this vlog, is to remind you to engage your understanding of why people are choosing an emotion of fear, and which externalities perpetuate that fear further for them. So you could be obviously looking at this from a bigger perspective, understanding why a whole nation, a whole community, a whole town could be feeling these certain emotions and what could be causing these fears to come up for them. But you can also apply this on a lot more of a micro level. You know, why is your friend like that? Why is your parent like that? Why is your neighbour like that? And there's an importance to me sharing this, obviously, because, you know, that's just going to help them, obviously, a lot more if you can come from that place of understanding, you know, why they're feeling like that, than from the place of judgment and why should you be afraid? Like, this is amazing. We're now going to get to do this. It's not necessarily very helpful for their situation and can cause further separation. You know, there is a lot of fear around freedom. And, you know, obviously there's a lot I could unpack further, right, with freedom, you know. And we know that free will is like a really big part of this game of life here on Earth in this moment. You know, and so we often, you know, have to come back to the remembering of, well, you know, the government, maybe certain corporations, you know, have they ever really had our health and the interests of our health at the core and the centre of what they represent and what they're doing? Excuse me, there's another airplane coming over again. You know, so why would you look to them as figures to direct you as to what you should do with your health, right? And you can't say that to everybody. Not everybody's in a place to really unpack that and to really have the capacity to even hold that perspective. And so, yeah, we are going to see, you know, this Stockholm syndrome coming to light, this fear of freedom, and you know, usually perpetuated by the belief that the government and corporations do have an interest of one's health at all times, at the core of their values. You know, and you've just got to send love to that. You've got to understand, like, where does that come from? You know, it's not very hard to see. You just have to then be able to actually understand it further. You know, it was one thing to see why someone is sitting in a certain emotion, but it's another thing to actually understand why they are there. Obviously, the seeing is like the very first step. The understanding is further along in that progress, because then you can have love for them. I'm not saying you can't have love for them if you can't see it, but they will feel more supported, usually, if you come from a place of understanding. You know, these are no promises. I'm not saying that this is the formula of how you navigate something like this. This is just a pondering, a sharing, potentially a helpful tool for us going forward. Yes. So I'm going to leave that here. You're welcome to leave any comments, questions down below. And you'll be able to find me on a few other social media platforms as well. And they are all in the description box down below if you're watching this on YouTube. Thank you.